It's a BumbleKast Mini, sponsored by Venus.
In regards to Team Dark, there's been a lot of stuff said about them having been a team only formed out of convenience, and that the three have never really been friends. In 06, however, we really see a team that ends up feeling like something of a found family. Rouge promises to stand by Shadow's side in the case of humanity turning against him, Omega expressing regret over having been the one to take down Shadow in the future, and Shadow having mixed feelings over leaving a broken down Omega in the future. I understand that 06's events never happened, but clearly they harbor more solid feelings for one another than the way they feel nowadays. Clearly something has changed since 06, right? Do you have any insight?
None that I can really express transparently here, short of I agree with you.
Yep.
I think things have shifted again, at least insofar as there is a degree of understanding and respect between the three of them. They are not friends in the same way that, like, Sonic, Tails, and Amy are friends, but there is a closeness there that they don't share with anybody else.
I think I guess that's one way to do it. Not the ideal way, but I guess it works. That really is just a funny way of saying friends, though.
You work with what you got. You find workarounds.
Pretty much. I'm condensing this next one down a bit, so I'm picking up in the last paragraph here. The core of what I'm asking is if Shadow is still the same guy I knew, and I'm just really misinterpreting the point of his modern incarnation, or if Sega just wants Shadow to be the occasional threat to Sonic for no real reason. If anyone would really understand Shadow, Ian, I figured it would be you, because your version of Shadow from Archie, while sometimes could be a little too soft, really nailed down the core of what made Shadow a nuanced and important character to the series. If you're not allowed to give me a fully straight answer on this, can you at least tell me whether or not you acknowledge that there's a difference in how his character is handled nowadays versus how his character was handled by Shiro Maekawa?
Once again, not sure how direct and transparent and honest I can be with this answer, but I would say, yeah, there's a difference.
I mean, just from the outside looking in, you can tell.
Yeah. I'm hoping we can shed the tiniest bit of nuance on him sympathetically in the future, but by and large, grim and unpersonable Shadow is how things are and will be.
Evan Stanley said recently that there was some different direction on Shadow that might be reflected in some upcoming issues of the comic. I don't know how.
She posted that before the corrections came in.
Oh boy. Okay. So what you're saying is that there's going to be some discourse after this next... After the issue, this issue comes out, there will probably be some discourse. God.
Do not expect any rapid or tectonic shifts with Shadow. Let's put it that way.
Quickly, yes. Well, at least there will be some different panels to refer back to instead of that specific one. Crap. Here we go again. I want to ask you about a line from Shadow in 06 that I feel nobody can really pin down the meaning of, and I want to get your thoughts on it. When Shadow takes off his inhibitor rings and Mephiles is surrounding him, Shadow says, "Even if the world decides to become my enemy, I will fight like I always have." This is, as you probably already know, in reference to humanity's decision to seal away Shadow after he's framed for the flames of destruction, and is basically Shadow's answer to Mephiles' question of what Shadow's plans to do if humanity turns against him. Whatever Shadow's answer means, it says a lot about Shadow's feelings towards humans in general. What do you think? Was Shadow simply saying he'll fight in a general sense? Simply stating that he won't just let himself be put away or destroyed, while not necessarily saying that he's going to abandon Maria's wish to fight with the humans? Or does Shadow still hold a grudge with humans in general, against humans in general, and will personally give every human a knuckle sandwich for foolishly choosing to step in his path, or in other words, death to all who oppose me? That is kind of funny.
The way I interpreted that line, and I think this is in alignment with the current direction, is he will fight for what he believes in regardless of public opinion. Like, if all of humanity thinks that he is doing something evil, but he thinks it's for the greater good, if he thinks it's going to save the world, he's going to do it. He will fight Sonic, he will fight Gun, he will fight Eggman, he'll fight aliens, he'll fight goo monsters that are demon, shadow, whatevers. He's going to fight because he knows he's right, and he doesn't care what anyone else thinks. And in the end, when he's proven right, and everyone's like, oh, we should have believed you, Shadow, he doesn't care. He knew he was right. What does your opinion matter? He's the ultimate life form. He got it done. The end.
Yes, you could say cowards run. He wins.
Like, if someone is going to be stupid enough to pick a fight with Shadow, okay, your funeral. He's not going to try to talk you down. He's not going to rationalize it. You start stuff, he's going to finish it.
He says I'm the coolest. I mean, are you going to argue with him?
And more in point to the line, and in the context of 06, even if he knows through the journey to the future that humanity would ultimately turn on him and betray him, that doesn't matter. Mephiles is wrong. Mephiles is evil. So Shadow's going to stomp him. He doesn't need to be rewarded. And even if he is punished in the end, that doesn't matter. He is going to fight like he always has and destroy evil.
Yes. Recently, it was revealed that Night the Owl and his companion are actually in a relationship, marking the first canon relationship in the IDW series, and an LGBT one as that. And an LGBT one at that. It was also revealed that the two were pitched as lovers when shown off to Sega. And the implication was that that for the two to be written like that at all, they had to be pitched as lovers, thus bypassing the no romance policy. My question is if that's true, do the characters have to be pitched as lovers in order for them to be in a relationship? If so, then is it impossible for characters that are pitched as either friends or strangers to evolve their relationship into something more meaningful due to the Sega mandates? Additionally, and full mask off here, is this how Tangle and Whisper were pitched, thus possibly walling off any possibility for their relationship to progress any further?
I'm not going to say Evan is lying to you. I wasn't involved with Night and Dawn. Dawn? Yeah.
Yeah.
Their pitch. I wasn't involved with that, so I found that out secondhand, but that's cool. And, when we were earlier pitching ideas of Tangle and Whisper's relationship evolving further, the note wasn't that, no, you can't have an LGBT group or representation. It was, we don't want a romantic angle focused onto the book. And even then, like, Night and Dawn are not really like lovey-dovey, smoochy. Like,
right.
Their relationship informs their interactions, but they are not overtly romantic. So again, it's workarounds and figuring out how to, approach things. So Tangle and Whisper were pitched individually. They were never thought of as a unit to begin with. They were meant to stand on their own, and they just happen to have great chemistry together. And from the feedback I've seen, there is a large demand for that to go further. But again, it's a more general purpose. We don't want to, Sega doesn't want us to focus on romantic angles in our action book aimed at 12-year-old boys. I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's where we are. That being said, if it's understood by a certain percentage of creators and readers, one might be able to read a lot into certain scenes or interactions and not have to, absolutely outright say anything. Some stuff is just there.
In this case, do think about it harder. Yes.
I can't outright, put the official stamp on anything, but not everything has to be hard coded into canon. Not everything has to be inked in blood. It's just, it is what it is.
Do it. Let it happen.
And who knows? Maybe things will change down the line. IDW is only 5 years old, and the franchise itself is going under changes. So maybe things can shift. what is yes today can be no tomorrow, and what is no today can be yes tomorrow.
Yes, make it happen. Super forms in gameplay drain rings, and that's their time limit. I know you've stated before that rings are just a gameplay mechanic. So what is their time limit then? Do they even have a time limit, or can Supersonic just continue in his super form for as long as he needs it? Additionally, can Supersonic be hit hard enough to make him lose his super form, as shown in Sonic 3 with the big arm grapple?
That would need a much harder study of the Supersonic gameplay and a discussion within the group on how we want to approach it narratively. I mean, Supersonic seems to endure a fair bit in between the Starfall Islands. So even if you were to say it's based on one's vitality or stamina, like, what does that even mean? We know Sonic's got stamina for years. Little dude is fast. So what does that translate into for Supersonic? I don't believe there is a hard and fast rule. It kind of comes down to what is necessary for the story at hand, which is a little fuzzy for my taste, but that's where it stands as of this recording.
The form lasts as long as the emeralds feel like putting up with your bullcrap. They're like, nope, I'm done. Bye. And then they speed off to the next place, wherever they go. Used to be a lot harder back in the day. You had to go into this alternate dimension and track them down inside these weird half pipes or spheres. But now they just kind of hang out. You just find keys and unlock them. Man, emeralds are weird and finicky like that.
It's been 30 years, man. They're tired.
Yeah. I mean,
we've done this before. You know the drill. Just come over here and collect me. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba. There you're Supersonic.
My favorite emeralds. Everyone's so tired. Speaking of knocking Sonic out of his super form, how exactly did Knuckles knock the emeralds out of him at the beginning of Sonic 3? We all know Knuckles is rougher than the rest of them, but Supersonic is the best of them. I always assumed maybe Knuckles was drawing on the Master Emerald's power to neutralize the emeralds, harnessing the power in a punch somehow to break down Supersonic, whether he's solid or frail. Do you have any idea, Ian? Or is it just unknown from ME?
I see what you did there.
Wow. Are you sure this isn't secretly written by you, Ian?
Yeah. Master Emerald Empowered Punch was my headcanon too. I don't think there's an official word on it one way or the other.
I just thought it was because there wasn't enough happy thoughts going on around Sonic at the time. Didn't we say that in earlier? Yeah, that was a thing earlier.
Maybe Knuckles was proportionately happier to clock Supersonic than Supersonic was to come to a new island.
I mean, Knuckles is always happy to punch someone. It's like, ooh, someone new to punch. Bam!
That was great. And the Emerald's like, whoa, that's way too positive. I'm out of here.
Yep, pretty much. Pretty much.
That is now the canonical voice of the Chaos Emeralds.
Pretty much. I like it. I always assumed that Sonic had just matured over the years, seeing how others were able to solve their disputes without necessarily jumping to violence first. Most specifically when Amy stopped Sonic from destroying Gamma. Heck, you can even see the effects of this firsthand in Black Knight with Merlina. There seemed to have been a sect of the internet saying that Sonic is and always should be a static character that doesn't go through character arcs and shouldn't grow. What's your opinion on this? Does Sonic need to grow as a character over time, even if the effects of it aren't as in your face? Or should Sonic always be the same dude, never learning or changing?
Well, that's the tricky thing, isn't it? Because Sonic is the face of the brand, and he is one of the biggest, most influential mascots, period.
Oh, yeah.
Bar none. And to that degree, he has to remain universally recognizable across all ages and demographics and shifts in the franchise. Sonic has to be recognizably Sonic. So if he were to grow and evolve and change to even a modest degree, that risks making him inaccessible to anyone who doesn't, follow along from the very beginning. On the other hand, I feel like that there has been some change, and whether or not that's a conscious effort to show Sonic's growth, or if it's just how writing popular fiction has changed itself since his inception, that's a much deeper debate. Someone really smart could probably make a really interesting paper on that. But it might be more of a reflection of the times rather than him. So you could debate it either way. You can read into it as much as you want, which is, we're Sonic fans. It's what we do. And still not necessarily be wrong, you know? I don't have the official seal of approval word of God on this. I just feel like it is a very tricky balancing act, especially with a series that is so narratively driven with its titles, you know?
Yeah, I think the problem is that Sonic he just outruns his character arcs all the time. He's too fast.
I mean, you work around a lot of it by having it be Sonic is the major force in somebody else's story. Whether it's...
We saw that in
Yacker
Frontiers,
yeah. Yeah, Yacker and his people, Frontiers and the Ancients, Chip getting his stuff together to take on Dark Gaia, getting Black Knight, getting the narrative of King Arthur back in order, or stopping Eraser Jin from messing up his book. Sonic is less of the character undergoing an arc and more of one who facilitates the arc of others, which, I mean, works pretty well so far. It's gotten us this many games.
I'm being told that for the most part, Sonic doesn't really need to grow because he already is his best self. I feel like he could be better, though. I don't know.
He's blue. What more do you want?
Okay, fine. You got me there. I've heard you talk extensively about Mega Man and the X series on the cast before, and I was curious if you've ever made it as far as Mega Man X5. If so, what did you think of the confrontation between X and Zero? Personally, I found this fight to be stupid for something that they had been building up since the end of X2. You would think they would have been fighting over ideals. The twin Maverick Hunters having no choice but to settle their differences with their fists, busters, sabers, whatever. Not over whether Zero has robot cooties or not, especially after what Zero had to go through with Iris, which was really caused because the Repliforce was labeled as Mavericks by humans. What did you think, Ian? Was it a satisfying smackdown or a boring Brannigan?
From what I remember, I felt like this has the potential to be compelling. I feel like something was lost in translation. Boy, do I want to take my own pass at this, which is the height of arrogance, I know, but it is what it is. I feel like there is... X5 itself is just a cavalcade of missed opportunities, and it should have been the end, you know? But
it was supposed to be.
No. We got to have our sequels, so... I don't know. There's an appeal to looking at the X series in total going, okay, now that we know how all of this falls out, how do you build up to the beats more properly? But that's with the benefit of hindsight.
Right.
But yeah, it's not the best way to execute that particular showdown, but it would be the foundation of whatever adaptation was done.
The music is amazing, though.
Like, I mean, come on.
X versus Zero? Yeah, it's one of the best songs in the series. Oh, man, it's such a good theme. The circumstances surrounding the actual story and the fight are dumb, but, that music, though. Yes. It makes you forget how dumb the story is. It's like, oh, yeah! Ian, in a previous BumbleKast, and I believe many before, forgive me, you mentioned that Team Dark is not officially working for Gunn. But I call bananas on that. In 06, not only are Team Dark referred to as agents by the soldiers they receive their orders and intel from, i.e. Agent Shadow, Agent Rouge, but Rouge is able to demand that Gunn pull all of their data on the Scepter of Darkness, a level of intel I don't think that Gunn would just randomly allow some hired mercs access, especially without going up the chain of command. Any answers for this? If I recall correctly, this statement about them not officially being Gunn agents comes from Sega, not you, so I'm not expecting much, but them ignoring this detail irks me to no end.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's Sega's call. That's what their official stance is.
Yep.
I agree with you. It is bananas. Although
Yeah,
they're not very appealing opinions.
No,
Yeah.
and they're brown, like gross old bananas. They're not even perfectly ripe. Ugh.
Can't say I liked that one a bunch, but we'll roll with
it. How exactly is there no concept of money in Sonic's world? Team Chaotix literally works for pay, even in IDW, and their inception in the modern era was with the goal of paying their rent. And they constantly are unable to afford the finer things in life. Heck, they eat ramen regularly, and their computer monitor is a beaten-up CRT. They're just like me for real, by the way. And even further, Judd's motivation in the original writers was money, money, money. Ian, master of the Sonic lore, please add some wrinkles to my brain, because this is smoothening my brain considerably. This could just be a running joke, and I'm not getting it, to be fair. I mean, yeah, at this point, yes. It is a bit of a running gag that I'm keeping going because it was hilarious when I first heard it, and I just keep it going because it's funny.
Yeah, that was the frustrating note was, Team Dark is not affiliated with Gun and money doesn't exist.
Uh-huh.
I think the latest note we got is that money exists, just don't talk about it. Don't show it.
Money,
which is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, it's like more like they could allude. Money can exist, but you can't really allude to it, I suppose. Although, in some cases, it does get referenced. It exists on murder trains. We know that.
There's also like very weird caveats where like Jet in particular, there's a whole cutscene of him, in piles and piles of doubloons or something, except that's treasure. That's ancient coinage. That's not actually money. That's treasure. That's different.
But treasure has to have a value to be treasure.
I know.
That's literally what it means to be treasure. Unless you're talking about Treasure the game developer, who sadly no longer exists. Or do they? I don't think so.
But ultimately, it doesn't make sense, and I got tired of answering this question on multiple shows in a row, and Kyle kept bringing it up because he likes to see that little blood vessel on my head expand, so here we are.
This is a running gag that has been going on for probably way too long, and you're welcome.
I would say we've run it into the ground, but if we don't stop, we may hit oil.
Yeah, but oil's worthless in Sonic's world because there's no money. I'm being asked if I could even see you right now, Ian, and the answer is no. I cannot see Ian right now, but I can imagine him, and it's funny. It's funny to me.
Of course, you can see me. We're recording in the Bumble booth in the Bumble headquarters on the lovely island of Bumble Island.
But the Fortress of Bumbletude?
There you go. The Bumble Castle.
The Bumble Cave. Wherever we are.
Bumble Compound.
That's true. Because we do have the Bumble cult listening to us right now.
Everyone, drink your Bumble Kool-Aid.
Here we are on Planet Bumble. Who makes the funniest stand-up comedy duo together? Could be anyone from any Sonic series. Archie, IDW, games, doesn't matter. Not Underground, though, because that's just silly.
Well, come on.
I'm guessing we can't do Boom either, then, if we're saying no silliness.
Boom is a stand-up routine. Everybody, start to finish.
No, it's just a sitcom. Well, I mean, sitcoms are usually based on comedian stand-up routines, so yeah, okay. You got me there. You got me there.
This is unrelated, but it brings to mind a running subplot in Tales of Berseria, where the character Magilu, who is a showman in her heart of hearts, is desperately trying to get her own roadshow going and gets each of the party members incorporated in her stand-up routine at some point or another. And every single one of them is ill fit for the gimmick. And each stand-up routine bombs in horrible ways. It's hilarious for all the wrong reasons. And as I'm looking at Sonic, I can see a lot of these pairings that you can do that would end with similar results. Like Tangle and Whisper. Tangle would have stage presence. Whisper would not be able to complete a punchline to save her life. Orbot and Cubot. Orbot would be able to put on a little bit of show. He'd be able to engage, but Cubot's too dumb to hit his marks. And, I'm going to pull Underground out, even though you said not to. Sleet and Dingo, you would think that would be a great comedic routine because they're such bumbling stooges. But Sleet would be too intellectual about it, and Dingo, again, is too dumb to hit his marks. I can see a lot of attempts at, like, Laurel and Hardy with these guys, except nobody can quite hit the Hardy.
What about Orbot and Tangle?
Okay, maybe that would be fun.
That's what I'm getting. Also Bell and Tangle with a ventriloquist act, but Tangle is the dummy.
That's if you can convince Belle over her stage fright.
Okay.
I got butterflies in my stomach. Well, let them out.
Rouge and Knuckles.
She would just get frustrated with him.
I think she would, yeah. She'd just be...
He's too literal. It would be Magalu and Eisen all over again.
Oh, boy. I feel like Amy is too nice. I don't know. It would be a wholesome comedy set for her. But who would it be with? Amy can be sassy, though, to be fair. But I feel like, I don't know. Vector would also be... I think Vector could pull it off.
Vector, I could see it pulling like a Seinfeld on his own.
Yeah.
What's the deal with money? Am I broke? Am I not? I don't even know. You've been a lovely audience. Don't forget to tip your waitress if you can. I'll be back Tuesday.
Another suggestion I'm receiving is Eggman and Sonic. I mean, maybe.
Unintentionally.
Yeah.
Like Eggman's trying to initiate it with Sonic as his captive, but Sonic turns the tables on him and just makes a fool out of him for the entire routine. I could see that.
Yeah. Also another one after Murder of Sonic, Rouge and Blaze.
Maybe. I'm seeing Magalu and Eleanor in that one, but...
that would be good. All right. Let's get into the last question here from Venus. I've heard you criticize some stuff that was written by previous writers with Archie, so it got me wondering. If you had a chance to reset the Archieverse from the very beginning, what kind of stuff would you cut to trim the fat? What kind of stuff would you want to keep or recycle? Additionally, did you feel like any of your own writing was limited or weighed down by random plot details and snags left behind by Penders and other pre-you writers? Or was tying up loose ends and retconning fairly simple for you?
It's very easy to look back and critique, but I do this with the full acknowledgement that the previous creators were working under different circumstances.
Yep.
Different licensing guidelines, mandates, if you want, different philosophies on licensed tie-in material, different understandings of the property. Like Sonic has changed considerably since his inception to where he is today. Different editors, and boy, howdy, has that had an influence, he said, without going into detail, because he's not going to spell that T. So it's very easy to sit back from on high and say, oh, yes, they should have done it better this way. But that's with this kind of mentality of being able to have all that control that you absolutely don't. So when I have offered critique, I don't mean it to cast aspersions. It's just I try to look at it from a more general position of what would have been nice if it could have been structured a different way, but understanding that, that may not have been an option. And in that token, I don't know if I'd want to go back and undo anything, just because Archie Sonic was the sum of its parts, the highs and the lows. And part of the thrill and the challenge of my early run was taking all these different ideas that had come from so many different creators and directions and ideals for the series and try to weave them into something that was recognizable within the current mindset. And I don't think some of the more exciting moments in my first couple of years would have been nearly as impactful if they weren't built off of some of that crazy crap that came before.
Say crap affectionately, by the way.
Yes, because I grew up on this, man.
Yes.
Like, this was my book.
Yes.
I read this over X-Men. I read this over anything else. Archie Sonic was my jam.
Same.
This was what I wanted to do with my career, and got real damn lucky that I could.
Yep.
So it's crazy stuff. And, here we are 15 years later, me entrenched in, what is current Sonic, and looking back at even my own stuff in Archie Sonic going, wow, how the hell did we get away with any of that? Oh, it's some crazy crap you did there, Flynn. So, I mean, just look at Darkest Storm. Like, all the revelations, all the reveals, all the deaths and confrontations in that 3-issue mad dash to the finish. All of that was built on what came before. And none of those would have been cool or impactful or baffling if they hadn't been off of other stuff that was cool and bizarre and also baffling in its own right. So
even I want to say this real quick. Even the post-reboot stuff was heavily informed and influenced by what came before. Even if you couldn't make direct references to certain fan favorite characters and stuff like that, you were still building it to be recognizably, ultimately Archie Sonic. This is it's kind of just what was planned, what was expected. So,
trying to get trying to recreate the flavor of the soup,
right,
of something that had been cooked by so many cooks for so long,
right.
And was all of the stuff in the past, my own stuff included, always great? No, of course not. It's a legacy book, and it's a tie-in one at that. There's going to be some weird stuff and some misfires, and I include myself in that.
It ebbs and flows for sure.
But I think part of what made Archie Sonic so special was just how bizarre it was and how things came together. So I could go back and look at all the stuff pre my run and say, okay, this could have been tightened up here. This character's motivation could have been more focused. We could have saved ourselves some headaches down the line by not going in this direction, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I feel a lot of that would be disingenuous because, I didn't have that authority, and it was under a bunch of different criteria at the time. And 2, it is what made the book what I loved and read growing up. And when I picked up the torch, my goal was to continue it, not to pave over it, not to retcon things away that I didn't like, but just to keep things going.
Exactly. And I think most of the fans and everyone appreciates you sticking with it like that instead of just, being like, oh, this is my book now, and just erasing what everybody did before.
No.
That was not the approach.
No, I loved that book growing up, and it was my honor to be a contributing member to the legacy that so many others had helped build up to that point.
Yeah. Yep. All right. On that note, we're at the end now. So,
yeah, thank you to Venus for sponsoring this BumbleKast Mini. If you want one of your own, head over to patreon.com/BumbleKast, Ko-fi.com/BumbleKast, or become a YouTube member.
Thanks for listening.